PlayStation Studios and Sony Santa Monica are discovering what it is to smell sweet baby stink, as their God of War Ragnarok game has less than half the peak concurrent players of the God of War game that was released, 4 years ago? Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Roll this up over at thatparkplace.com, and you can see right there God of War Ragnarok, which was just released earlier this week, hit a peak concurrent player count of 31,606 earlier today, just a few days, as I said, after it became available to purchase on Steam. We can look at it right here. This is live, only 21,494 people playing right now. The peak concurrent was 31,606, just about when I wrote the article, actually, about 11 hours ago. And that is less than half of the previous installment in the franchise God of War, which had a peak concurrent player count of 73,529 when it released to Steam back in January 2022. So I was a little bit off my time there. 2 years, not 4, but still absolutely terrible. You can see that right here. If you want to look, obviously 72,529. I mean, it's still getting like a third of the current players, right? We're looking at 21,000. We're looking at 7,000 right there. So not looking good for Sony, Santa Monica, and PlayStation. Interestingly, both games have the exact same Metascore of 94 from critics on Metacritic. However, the user score is a full point lower for God of War Ragnarok. It's at 8.1, while God of War has a 9.1. Despite the scores being similar, the lack of players for God of War indicates players are not purchasing the game. I think that's obvious. One of the reasons could be that video game consultancy Sweet Baby Inc., led by Kim Belair, worked on God of War Ragnarok. Given this fact, the game was added to Cabrutus Rambo's Sweet Baby Inc. to take the Steam curator list, which has over 436,912 followers. There's a screenshot of Sweet Baby Inc.'s website, God of War Ragnarok, right there in the center of that. So they did indeed work on this, and I do think that this is having an effect on people purchasing this game. Obviously, it is not the only thing. Another reason for the lack of players could be the fact that PlayStation Studios, the game's publisher, is charging full price for the game, despite it originally being released as an exclusive on PlayStation back in 2022 when they released the God of War, the 2018 God of War game to Steam. Furthermore, the game requires Steam players to link their account to a PlayStation Network account for a single-player game. A lot of players not happy about that. This PlayStation Network account requirement saw many players leave negative reviews. The reviews for the game on Steam are currently mixed, or they were when I wrote this, with Steam reporting that 67% of the 2,888 user reviews for this game are positive. SteamDB reports the game received 484 negative reviews on September 19th, 765 negative reviews on the 20th, and there were 256 so far on the 21st. So we actually can scroll down here a little bit and see if anything has changed. It's not going to show me, but you can see here that 3,302 positive now and 1,668 negative. So probably a little bit more positives have come in because we can see here that there were 2,862 and there were 1,505, whereas now 3,302, 1,668. So significantly more positives than negative, but both are still kind of coming in. The game was scrutinized by gamers back in 2022 after the game race replaced the Jotun Angrboda. There you can see what the character looks like in the game. The game's narrative director, Matt Sophos, responded to the criticism on X, writing this: "Do they also have blue dwarves in Norse mythology? Was Loki the son of a Greek demigod? Please show me in the edits where it says that all Jotun were lily white. Let me save you the time. You can't. I've read them." When asked if he would make white characters in an Egyptian God of War series, Sophos responded, "You do know Jotun aren't real, right? They can be anyone or anything. Some are even giant serpents. But I get it. You were okay with Jormungandr because his scales were white, right? Well, good luck to you. Hope you can find a game that better fits your sensibilities." In a lengthier thread, he explained the decision around Angrboda, saying, "Angrboda in our game is a young black woman. The vast majority of players are thrilled and think she looks incredible. And boy, does she. But a tiny vocal sliver of the internet was offended at this notion. I'm going to address a few of the main topics of outrage." First, he said, you caved to outside pressure. He says, I can count on 2 fingers the number of notes we've gotten for story changes to 2018 plus God of War Ragnarok combined. This was not one of them. I'm grateful for the trust given to us to tell the best story possible without interference. So, yeah, nonsense. Interestingly, he's saying he only got 2 notes, but they hired Sweet Baby Inc. So, I guess they didn't provide any notes to him and the team at Sony Santa Monica at all. That doesn't really add up at all. But who knows? Who knows? Just you really can't make this stuff up. We hired a bunch of consultants. A bunch of consultants actually said that they worked on the game, but we only received 2 notes on both games. Okay. No one believes you. That is an absolute lie. He's just straight up lying. He then wrote, you made it political. As a writer, your job is to tell stories that are compelling and relatable. You bring pieces of yourself. You bring pieces of yourself to stories, and your opinions shine through. So writing is always political. It's just usually only called that if the politics aren't agreed with. That's absolutely not true. We actually have a really good article that novelist Isaac Young published on the thatparkplace.com, or he actually did it in an X thread, reached out to him, asked him if I could publish it, and he agreed. So we did publish it on thatparkplace.com. I'll actually link it in the description below because he basically just absolutely obliterates this entire argument that it's everything is political. It's just absolutely not true. There are a lot of other things besides politics, philosophy, morality, etc. That things are they're just not political. It's just a garbage reasoning and worldview. It just kinds of shows that their minds have been twisted, that everything has to be political. But Isaac Young does a really good job breaking it down. He went on and said, it's not accurate to Norse mythology, doesn't respect the culture. Whoo boy, the big one. Let me start with this. God of War is our interpretation of mythology, not history, Norse or Greek. We tell a personal story with the backdrop of gods, giants, etc. through our lens. He then went over a number of other characters that the game series has changed. And then before returning to Angerboda, when he did return to Angerboda, he wrote this. I guess what I'm saying is this. We've consistently taken mythological characters and given them our own spin. So if the color of Angerboda's skin is where you draw the line and how respectful we've been, it's probably worth some self-examination. Thanks for listening. So he's basically saying, if you don't like it, you're basically a racist. What do you expect from these people? That's what they always do. And they always try and play coy with it too. But this is the current video game industry in a nutshell. And they're paying for it now. They are absolutely paying for it now as gamers are just absolutely fed up with it. And we can see here again, only 31,606 peak concurrent compared to 73,529, less than half for Ragnarok compared to God of War. On top of changing Angerboda's race, though, the game was also criticized after writer Anthony Birch admitted he wanted to make Kratos talk about kissing men. He said this, I was a writer on this. I don't know if you'll like the parts I wrote, but I'm pretty sure you'll like the game in general. Also, I tried really hard to make Kratos talk about kissing guys. He then added this, implying that maybe he's joking. Who knows? Anytime these people are saying something, I just believe them. I believe that they're, especially when they're talking about degenerate things, they're telling you the truth. If they're talking about anything else, they're usually lying. But if they're talking about how degenerate they're making things, they're usually telling you the truth. Because he goes on and says, I don't know if that line made the final cut. It lives in the same purgatory with the line where Kratos mentions PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale as being a canon part of his backstory. So obviously he posted this and then he's like, well, it could be fake. I could be lying. Why would you even do this? It just boggles the mind. And it just kind of just shows again, that these people are dishonest people for the most part. And the only time, like I said, that they do tell the truth is when they're talking about how they're going to turn things into debauchery or degeneracy, etc. And that's the things that they are going to be promoting through their video game, movie, television, etc. It's usually the only time they tell the truth. Otherwise, they are lying. And and then they double down on their lies, and then they're usually projecting onto you their own personal problems, their own incapacities, their own misgivings, etc. But you gotta laugh at this though, right? Sweet Baby Stink is all over this game, and less than half of what the 2018 game did when it came to Steam in 2022. Another massive L for Sweet Baby. They keep racking them up every single game that releases that has their stink attached to it. And we will continue to be documenting every single one of their games that releases. Because it is going to be a abysmal failure after abysmal failure. And that's what it has been all of 2024. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you make of God of War Ragnarok having less than half of the peak concurrent of God of War on Steam? I mean, 73,529 to 31,606. That is not good. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.